Please don't push me, but y'all push B. Now we got dwellers from Cali to Flatbush B. Now they got heat on their feet that say press B. And now we so deep in the streets, y'all can't stress me. Can't curse me, then bless me. I'm crucifying my flesh, that's less me. SAT'd from preaching, can't test me. Atheists are now believing, that bless me. Yeah, we got the basement replacing any of those worldly pursuits that y'all chasing. Any of those trials and tests that y'all facing. Any of the relationships that y'all changing. We rearranging, making the shame shift. Giving Satan back what's his, that's the blame shift. Rise up and walk commands, that's the lame shift. Cheat codes for living this life, that's the game shift. All on Yeshua, man, the rest is manure, man. I'm dying daily, so I rise up a purer man. Pressing B daily, so my sins looking fewer, man. Washing the blood, so my sins down the sewer, man. Yeah, so press B with me, and let's let whatever gon' be just be. Yeah, so press B with me, and let's let whatever gon' be just be. Welcome to the basement, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Tim Ross. I hope you are all doing well and that you find yourself today closer to God than you've ever been. And I mean that for anybody. Like, you could be like super far away. I hope you just moved in a little bit. You may be a person that's very, very near. I hope you moved in even more. There's always more room for us to get closer to God through relationship and through community. So shout out to Press B, shout out to my dwellers, shout out to my promoters, shout out to Cash App, shout out to PayPal, everybody, every single one of you generous souls that keeps us out here like this. I really appreciate you. I really love you. All right, I'm running through this whole thing because I have a guest with me here today that I'm excited to just vibe with. He's here with his wife. His wife is not on the pod though. She laid off in the cut, just to make sure nothing goes down. She got some hood tendencies that we talked about, so she got his back. I don't think anybody want to run up on dude because she knows some things. She been some places. She know about some atmospheres and things. Anyway, this dude filled out this Google form. How many months ago? It's like a long time ago, and forgot about it. Filled out the Google form, forgot about it. Sammy had responded and was like, yeah, we're interested. And then he checked like 4 months later and was like, oh, I don't even know if I want to do it anymore. I'm just kidding. But he's here, and I'm so grateful, and I cannot wait for you to hear his heart. And I'm excited to hear his story. This is our first time ever meeting. And so I'm grateful. So I'm going to introduce to some and present to others for the very first time. I don't think it's going to be the last time, though. For the very first time, down in the basement, this man pressed B. Told me himself he has never missed an episode. That's a B presser if I ever heard of one. Ladies and gentlemen, Vernon Fox III is in the building. Let's go!
Hey. What's going on?
Let's get it. Glad you're here, man.
Man, it's a blessing, Tim.
It's bro.
Privilege to be here, sir.
Thank you, bro. I'm so grateful you're here, and I just want you to help us all understand what got you right here.
Wow.
And as you know, we got nothing but time.
Yeah.
We've had a 4-hour pod, people, so
I watched it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She was like that.
Oh, Victory Boyd is a beast.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she's a beast.
100%.
Yeah.
Again, man, privilege, honored, humbled, and just grateful to have the opportunity to sit and chop it with you. I'll just start there with the Google form.
Yeah.
I was watching,
what made you even fill it out?
You know what? I had watched a number of episodes, and in all honesty, I think the episode that I was watching at the time when I filled it out was you and Juliet.
Okay.
The very first one where you all were just kind of talking.
Yeah.
And I think there was so much that you said that resonated with me in that particular moment in that season of where I was, just dealing with transition. God was calling us and pushing us into a new space, kind of hearing your story about, not just where you were in the moment, but the journey to get there, the route, the start of your relationship and all of those seasons that you endured. And man, it just spoke heavy to me. And I think maybe about a week later, I was watching a pod of you on Preston's leadership.
Yeah, the leader's cut.
Yeah,
shout out to Prez.
And I'll never forget you said something on there, and that's the day I went and just filled it out. So,
wow.
If I can retrace kind of what you were saying,
for sure,
and pocket it, I think in essence what you said was that one of the most frustrating things that you endure as an individual was when God had kind of cut the grace on seasons of life that you were in, but did not kind of direct you where he was calling you to next.
Absolutely correct.
Boy, when I heard that thing, I said, wait a minute now.
Was that too close to home?
Oh, man, that thing penetrated.
Wow.
And it was in that moment, I think I went on and I might have sent a DM knowing you wasn't gonna read it, but
right.
I knew Hooli might see it.
That's right, y'all know.
But I went in and I kind of just
that's
said,
a dweller for real, because he already know it wasn't me.
But I just kind of just shared, what that did for me, and it was just more of me just being able to communicate and release, like, man, this really relates to where I am, and I feel that. And maybe the next episode I was on, you guys were talking about, hey, there's this form or whatnot. And I went in there, and I'll be honest, I don't even remember what I wrote. I don't. I just know. I just know I was tapping into a space of the things that I experienced and how what you all were doing was ministering to me in a way that it was helping me.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, that was kind of the point of that. Like you said, I didn't think about it again.
Yep.
I watch, for the help, for the support, for the value of what I can gain through the episodes and through the guests that you have. And, here we are, over a year later probably. And one day I'm just trying to clean out some DMs, actually. And when I saw it, Sam sent a message, said, hey, we're interested. And I reached back out. I said, man, I apologize because I had went on a social fast. Yeah. And so I wasn't even dealing with social media for a good while. Yeah. Went back in there and saw that message. And by that point, I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, we're now 3 or 4 months removed. There's a likelihood that they probably, not tripping no more. Yeah. And I didn't know how I felt at that time. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, from the time that I filled that out to now, the platform is, tremendously expanded. And so I just kind of went into prayer, went and talked to some of my spiritual covering, discussed it with my wife. I'm like, what do you think of this? And, I went back in there and said, okay, I'm willing to, discuss it. And it was like, no, we ain't discussing nothing. Like, what you doing in August?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that's how that all went down.
Hey, so here's my biggest takeaway from that. That God's timing is perfect.
100%.
That you can do something in one season and literally forget about it. Yeah. But God knows exactly when. Because we may not even be talking about anything related to why you filled it out in the first place. You already said you don't even remember what you said on it, right?
Right.
But God knows the right timing. And I just love when he does stuff like that. Amen. Because sometimes there is so much that he wants to do, but he just needs us to initiate it.
Yes, sir.
And then he's in control of the outcome and how it actually happens. So that's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing it. That's really, really dope.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
That really is a part of what God has taught me over time. Because I was a real results type of person, always have been. And I'll give you a little bit more background of me. But while we're on that, I was a former athlete, and I believed in making things happen. That was kind of a motto in my life, MTH. And God had to show me that I was misusing that tool, that there were some things that I could initiate, but then there were other things that I was not only trying to initiate action, but I was trying to produce the results as well. And he said that's not how it works. Yeah, he goes, you do the work, leave the results up to me.
For sure.
Your job is to be obedient. And so I've learned that lesson, that it's not about me taking action and then also trying to produce the outcome that I want, but it's ultimately about what God desires and what he wants for me. And yeah, man, that's, I think this is a testament to that.
I love it, man. All right, so you definitely did not make this happen. Right? You trusted God, you made the initiation, and then God himself is the one that orchestrated the timing of it.
Yeah.
And when it would be. So I don't think this is coincidental at all.
No.
And you've learned from my team, when we say yes,
Yeah,
we move. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't like another 4-year, but not 4-year, but 4-month wait where it's like, okay, maybe we'll have you in February of 2024. It was like, what you doing right now?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, give us some background on you. Yeah,
for sure. So originally born and raised in Vegas.
Okay.
And contrary to popular belief, I didn't live in a casino hotel.
That's all people think.
Right.
Vegas was before the
Right.
mob got down there.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
wild.
But no, I live in a house just like everybody else. Born and raised in a household with 2 parents, which I mention often because I realize in this day and time, it's not always common.
Facts.
Right?
Yeah.
And, my folks have been married over 40 years.
Congrats, bro.
Yeah, no, it's a blessing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And growing up in a house where I had a great example of what a father looked like, what a leader in the home looked like, what someone who was a caregiver, someone who, showed affection, all of those things. So growing up and then being an athlete, which was my thing, everybody had all of these heroes that were athletes. For me, my father was my hero.
Yeah.
And he was who I strived to be like, being named after him as well.
Yeah.
My mother introduced us to the things of God at a very early age. And so I would say all the way back to maybe 6-7 years old, I remember being in the church, all the time. Grew up with a strong, charismatic Pentecostal background. And
did I.
Right. And we were in church quite often.
Yeah.
And like a lot of young people, by the time I got to the age of 17, 18, was going off to college. As I mentioned, I was a multi-sport athlete. So, participated in soccer, basketball, track and field. Football actually was the last sport that I played, but it coincidentally ended up being the one that would pave a way for my future.
Wow.
And, received a full ride athletic scholarship to play ball. Went to Fresno State University in Central California.
Yes, sir.
And, man, I went there, and I'll be honest, I really didn't have many aspirations beyond playing on Saturdays, because for me, I'm undersized, you hear all the statistics about the likelihood of you playing at the next level beyond that. And I bought into it,
Yeah.
So for me, that less than 1% seemed like an impossibility. But with God, his hand, his grace, his favor, experienced a highly successful college career, and was told that I would be drafted as high as a 3rd or 4th round draft pick in 2002, the year that I came out. And, it was on.
Yeah.
Like, I had agents call in, family sitting around, we're watching the draft. And, man, I sat there for 2 days and never saw my name called.
Wow.
And what I later learned through just, God really working on me, I kind of live by this 3-part framework. It's identifying, it's qualifying, and then it's execution. And for me, the identification process is like, where are you?
Yep.
Like, let's tap in.
Yep.
And then qualifying is like, how did you get here?
Right.
Getting to the root of that. And then execution is like taking action steps towards that change that you seek to better yourself
Right.
from the condition that you find yourself in. And for a long time, I really had not qualified why I was experiencing certain things. And lo and behold, what I later learned, because I did not get drafted into the NFL, it was a major letdown for me, emotionally, mentally, because up until that point, I had experienced nothing but success athletically, for the entirety of my life up until that point. And for the first time, somebody was saying, you're not good enough. And I didn't realize what that did to me.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I ended up getting an opportunity to go and be an undrafted rookie free agent with the San Diego Chargers at the time in 2002. I went in there with what I tell people is just a handshake and an opportunity, because I didn't get, a single dollar.
Wow.
No signing bonus, no nothing. I went in there. I think I was like 6th string, shortest guy in my position. Pretty much everything that could have said this is not going to happen, was what I was up against. And I'll never forget, during the course of that time, I went to a chapel service at the time. Shout out to Pastor Sean Mitchell, who was the team chaplain. And Pastor Sean is talking, and I remember him saying something that really has just stuck with me and kind of just driven me from that point. He said, you got to work like it all depends on you and pray like it all depends on God.
Facts.com /facts again. Wow.
Yeah. My man said that, and it was in that moment that I realized, like, listen, man, this is not dependent upon you. Because my entire life I had become self-sufficient to my gifts, to my skills, to my talents, to my abilities. And that's what had carried me up into that point. And God started breaking that down. And I didn't realize that what he had chosen as the pathway for me to pursue this next phase of life that he was calling me into was also something that he was using to bridle, mature, and to build me for, the real future purpose of what he was calling me into beyond the game.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I realized, like, man, if this is going to happen, it's going to have to be by the Lord.
Absolutely.
Because there's nothing I can do. They already told me you ain't good enough, basically.
Right.
And sure enough, man, I watched God move in a miraculous way. I went from 6th string to 5th string to 4th string to 3rd string. I saw myself literally competing and fighting for a job, and I was probably one of the last persons signed to that roster.
Wow.
And over a course of 3 to 4 months, I went from, on draft day, considering giving up football altogether, and to now competing for a job. And by my 2nd week in the NFL, I was an NFL starter. And so, you talk about just like, what? How this happen? Like, nothing but God.
All right, man. Let's slow down a bit, shall we? Because, okay, this is where I need some elaboration.
Yeah.
In college, you're told about this slimmest of chances to even go pro.
Right.
And you said you bought into that.
Yeah.
And then you balled out? Like, how? I'm trying to figure out, like, you're not going to make it to the NFL. You're already short for your size. You're on our team. Yeah, we got you. We gave you a full ride. But, like, you probably have a great collegiate career, but you better make sure you get this degree as well, because it's a wrap after this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So get your MBA, or, get whatever license you want or whatever. But then you balled out. So I'm most times when I hear a story like this, it's from somebody that heard about the odds and was like, but I never gave in.
Yeah.
I never believed it. I always knew that I was that dude and I was going to prove to everybody. What I'm hearing from you is they're like, hey, Mr. Fox III, your chances are slim. And you're like, got it.
You're right.
You are absolutely right. Probably not going to happen, but I'm going to give it all I got. And then you ball out.
Yeah.
To even be sitting there for the NFL wasn't even supposed to be on the card. So you had already overachieved.
Yeah.
But then you're just told at that next level the same exact thing that you were told at the collegiate level.
Right.
And then you excelled it again. So what is the mindset?
Yeah.
The college one and then the NFL one, when you buy into it? Because most people don't have your narrative.
Yeah.
Or they do and then they change it after the success. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We always do this edited testimony when it was like, I always believe God. We don't talk about none of that crying you was doing. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I believe, but help my unbelief.
Right,
that
exactly.
Part.
So can you elaborate on that? Because I'm fascinated by that.
You know what is good? We retrace because there were some roots to the establishment of that entire almost what they call it imposter syndrome started to set up in me.
Got you.
Because I was very, very confident, maybe overconfident.
Okay.
And here, let's go back to high school.
Okay.
So my senior year of high school, I go to a coach. And back then, it's not like today where you can get a video link that you can send in 2 seconds, and every coach in the country can look at your highlights,
right?
Huddle and all. We didn't have that. We had VHS.
That's
that you
exactly
had to
right.
package up,
hype tape,
send it in the mail,
yep, absolutely,
and hope that they didn't throw it away, right?
Exactly right.
So I go to my coach and I said, "Listen, can you help me put together a highlight that I can send out to colleges?" And he said to me, he said, "Well, you probably want to consider like some of these smaller schools." Because, you're a little undersized and, not the biggest, not the fastest. He's like, but, I think you can play at the next level, but just maybe not at the highest level. And that discouraged me a little bit, but not enough to make me just like hang it up.
Got you. I feel you.
So I go to my high school counselor, all right? And Curtis Hall, shout out. I go to him, I said, "Listen, I need you to help me." He said, "Put your tape together." He said, "Tell me where you want me to send it. I'll take care of it."
Wow.
So here's the thing. I pick about 6 schools.
Okay.
And I'm just like, okay, so he's in the back of my mind. And I'm thinking like, okay, don't shoot too high. But let's put a feeler out there and let's kind of see. Let me tell you this. Every school we sent that tape to offered me a full ride scholarship. Yeah. Every single school.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe now, retrospectively, considering that God was using that as a tool that the next time somebody said, "Hey, less than 1%, have an opportunity," that although, now I've been damaged enough that I kind of doubt at the same time I know like, man, this ain't too hard for God.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and what did I have to lose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's ask that because I was getting my degree. All of that was Gucci.
Yeah, for sure.
And for me, academics was more important even than football. So I got that part done.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I was blessed to be recognized as, back then it was called like a Dratty Award.
Okay.
It's literally considered the academic Heisman.
Wow.
So every year it's like 16 in the entire country. I was a finalist for that.
Wow.
So, all of this stuff is going on and God is opening up doors beyond the game. So for me, it's like, if that happens, it happens. But,
you were content either way.
I won't say I was content because it's what I wanted.
Yeah. Okay. Now, got you. That's good. That's good.
I wanted that thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And then now that you say that, when I think back, so I'll never forget this. I was living, by the time I was a senior in college, I was living alone in an apartment. And I'll never forget, one day I was just like, God, this is torturous. I'm like, not necessarily knowing what the future looks like. I said, if you could just give me a word, like let me know for sure if this thing is going to happen. And I remember waking up, it was probably 3 a.m, got down on my knees. I said, God, I just need to hear you tell me whether or not this is going to happen. I fell asleep, woke up. It was probably 4 or 5. I had been down on the ground. I remember waking up and all I heard was yes. That's all I heard. That's all I heard. He didn't tell me this how it's going to happen.
Right.
That's where I went wrong.
Right, for sure. Absolutely.
Because I had a narrative in my head like, oh yeah, I'm about to get paid.
Right. All you heard was yes.
All I heard was yes. And I revisited that moment when I didn't get drafted. Yeah. I remember going and sitting down lakeside in Vegas, little neighborhood. I was by myself. I couldn't sit there with the family watching the TV no more. I was tired every time the phone rang. Like, you know,
for sure.
My heart jumped out of my
I can't
chest.
imagine that.
And I went and I sat down at the lake and I said, God, why you do me like that?
Wow.
I said, you said yes. He said, I did. But I didn't say how.
E. coli virus. I love it.
He said, I said yes, but I didn't say how. I was still in a bad space because let's just keep it real. I was embarrassed.
Yeah, 2 days sitting on the couch.
Yeah, my pride was shot.
Yep.
Because again, I mean, every team I've ever been on, you know, MVP,
Yeah.
you know, top player
Yeah.
in the record books, all of that had happened. And now somebody's saying, like, you're not good enough. I couldn't process that.
Wow.
I couldn't. I got a call from the San Diego Chargers general manager at the time, Mr. John Butler. He called me, I remember. And by this point, because typically, you know, the good players that get picked up, priority free agents.
Yeah, for sure.
It happens quick.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
The draft
Absolutely.
is over. You know, the phone ringing, you negotiating with your agent, figuring out what's the best situation.
Yep.
It didn't happen for like 36 hours.
Wow.
So at this point, I'm like, okay, what graduate school am I going to go to?
Right,
What am I going
right.
to do? Like,
exactly.
Football's a wrap.
Yep.
And he called me and he said, hey, would you want to be a San Diego Charger? I'm like, bro, I'd be a San Diego Zebra if I can play ball.
Y'all can make up a team. Just put me on it.
Yeah.
I could be a San Diego Stingray. I don't
Whatever.
care. Yeah,
Whatever.
exactly.
And I recall him saying to me, he said, you don't sound excited. And I said, it's not that I'm not excited, but I expected more, you know, and this is just personal.
for sure.
I was just being honest.
Yeah, I'm glad you were. That's dope. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, that was kind of the pathway to that journey. And then the rest of it was when God just started tearing me down once I got there.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is very, very interesting. So, in college, you are told basically you're probably not going to be good enough for the next level.
Right.
1% chance.
Right.
And then you send out a VHS tape, and every college that got it had a different opinion.
Yeah.
You sit through 2 days of embarrassment, right? Waiting for the phone to ring. It doesn't happen. And then the GM of the Chargers calls, who has a completely different opinion about you as well.
Apparently.
So here's what's like really blessing me right now. What's blessing me right now, Vernon, is that there are a lot of people that hang their hat, their identity, their goals, their destiny, their future on one person's opinion. And many people are paralyzed in their lives right now based on the first person's feedback of them.
Yeah.
And they never got a second opinion
Right.
in life.
Wow.
We only think about second opinions as it relates to a bad diagnosis, right? You got to have a surgery. Well, I'm going to get a second opinion, right? Like you got cancer. I'm going to get a second opinion, right? You can't have children. So I'm getting a second opinion. I'm going to a different doctor. But a lot of times when it comes to criticism and critiques, the first person that speaks to us, we believe them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm fascinated by this narrative because you had two major instances where had you believed, like fully bought in, I know you were like, yeah, no, you're probably right. But there was still a level of confidence to go, but we gonna see though.
Yeah.
As opposed to, man, hey, listen, if that's what you got to say, then I'm gonna just go ahead about my business and see what this degree is gonna get me.
Right.
That is like that's very rare.
Yeah.
The majority of people that I know are crippled by the opinion, especially when it comes from somebody on these different tiers.
Absolutely.
So You go to camp,
Yeah.
obviously. And you already told us that you were competing for a job by week 2. What are you feeling? What changes for you going through that process?
You know what? It was, I can't say that there was a day that I didn't feel such high levels of anxiety, because it was like, again, it wasn't until I got that word when he said, work like it all depends on you.
Yeah, it's good.
Pray like it all depends on God, which said this to me. Scripture says faith without works is dead.
That's the book.
And so often we want to trust God for things that we're not willing to put the work in for. You know, it's like, yo, God's gonna give me a job, but you're not putting in no resumes. Like you're not out hitting the pavement,
right,
pursuing that thing that you're trusting and believing him for, which I believe in turn activates God to move on your behalf. Oftentimes in scripture, when he healed people, he said, your faith made you whole.
That's right.
You know, it was the action.
Yeah.
When the men tore the roof up, let their friend down through the roof, it said when he saw their faith.
That's right.
Meaning he saw them like showing God, like, we trust you enough that we'll go to this length to prove to you how bad I really want this.
Yeah.
And then that fall in line with his will. And so for me, it was a daily process of just, you know, one foot in front of the other type of deal. And when you, I mean, let's keep it all the way real. When you 6 string, bro, there's days where you get 1 rep.
Right.
And I convinced myself, like, okay, I gotta be perfect.
Yeah, bro.
Because if I'm getting that 1 rep, I gotta make sure I'm not making mistakes.
That's right.
I have to make sure that I am.
Yeah, you would have got cut.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Because people was going home every single day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And God did 2 things for me. So one thing that happened one day, I'll never forget. So we're in our meetings, and I think I was a defensive back. So I'm in the defensive back room, and the coach is kind of like quizzing players. So he's asking players, hey, you know, what do you have on this? He called them up. He's like, you know, draw yourself in on this particular play. Show me what your responsibility is, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that I pride myself in was the mental aspect of the game. So not that I wasn't a blessed athlete,
right,
but I knew that I had to be a thinker out there. And if I could limit the amount of mistakes and be assignment perfect, it would put me in a position to be successful and make plays.
I bet it would.
And so for me, that's one of the things that I knew had to be right. Like, if I'm getting limited opportunities, you better know what you're doing.
That's right. Please talk about this.
And be as versatile as possible. Not just what I want to do, but whatever they ask me to do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So my man calls me up, and he's like, hey, draw this up for me. So I draw it up, and then he's like, and I don't know, God, gotta be God. He's like, well, write in what this guy does. What this guy does. So now I'm up there drawing the whole thing in because I know it. And if he had done that to some other people, he probably would have embarrassed some of them. But I knew what everybody was supposed to do. So I'm up there, and I'm drawing it up. And so here's the next step of that. So we come out of that meeting. Now we're in a full defensive team meeting. My man calls me up as soon as the meeting started. So apparently he went to the coaches and was like, hey, check this out real quick. You know, when we start the meeting, I want you to see this. So he calls me up. He tells me to draw up full formation. Everybody. I'm drawing in the defensive linemen. I'm drawing in the DBs, the cornerbacks, the safeties, the linebackers. And he's like, on this particular play, show me where everybody's supposed to be. I'm up there just drawing it up, right? And I'm the 6th string nobody dude. And he came to me after the meeting. He said, you know, I did that on purpose. He said, because they need to see what I see.
Ooh.
One of them God winks.
Man, I know starters, quarterback starters, that can't tell you where everybody's supposed to be on the field.
Yeah.
Huge contracts.
Yeah.
And they still got to look at their wrist. The 6th string dude is on his beautiful mind, Rain Man, LeBron James. That's that's when you have athleticism and acumen. Like listen, study thyself approved.
Yeah. A workman that needeth not be ashamed. No shame.
Rightly dividing.
Yeah.
This book and a playbook.
Yes, sir.
Right? Like that inspires me.
Yeah.
That inspires me. That inspires me because let me tell you something. Greatness does not come it doesn't go on sale. You cannot get it at a discount.
Yes, sir.
It costs what it costs. And if you don't put in that time, you will be exposed.
Oh, yeah.
You can fake it for only so long, but at some point you're going to be exposed.
Right.
All right, 6 to 5, 5 to 4, 4
Yeah.
to 3, 3 to 2.
So on the way to that, God gave me one more wink. So
I can't wait to hear about this.
So we're at practice
This
one
is
day.
a dope little movie I'm watching.
And I know you see pictures.
Hey, this is a documentary right now. I'm loving this.
So we're at practice and we're stretching in the stretch lines. Coach is kind of walking through, the head coach. He kind of rolls up on me and he's like, "Hey, Foxy," that's what they used to call me. Junior Seau started. He's like, "Hey, Foxy." He's like,
Junior.
Yeah, man.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, Junior, man.
Yeah, that was a good dude, man.
Yes, sir.
Dang.
Yes, sir. He comes up to me and he says, he goes, "Man, I don't know how we got you." He goes, You're like a gem, man. You just kind of fell out of the sky. He's like, you know, yeah, man, there's some teams that kind of missed on you. And, you know, he's like, we're lucky to have you.
Wow.
And you would think that would have like motivated me.
Yeah.
It angered me. Yeah. So instead of that being something that made me feel validated by him, it awakened something in me. Because in that moment, I was like, I've been here. I've been doing this.
Yeah,
you
for
just
sure.
didn't see it.
Yeah, right, for sure, absolutely.
And a switch went off in me.
Wow.
And that thing that me not getting drafted had took out of me, that confidence that I lost, because all of a sudden, when I walked in the locker room, for the first time, I realized how short I was and like what school I went to.
Yeah.
You know, what place I was on the depth chart.
Yeah.
None of that stuff ever mattered to me growing up. Like I just went out and competed. And
Yeah,
it
for
was
sure.
like, you know, I'm gonna give them the work.
Yeah, for sure.
And for the first time now, I'm comparing myself to people. I'm looking around and wondering if I'm good enough, struggling within myself to believe that I belong.
Yeah.
And the switch went off that day. And I was like, no, I belong here.
Wow.
I was like, I'm gonna show you.
Wow, that's dope.
And the climb just, you know, happened. And God intervened and he provided some opportunities. And, you know, unfortunately, it's the business.
It is.
People were getting hurt. Things were happening.
That's what happens.
And next thing I know,
Next man up.
is on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's dope, man. That's very inspirational. It's interesting. I've always had that parallel when it comes to the art of communication.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you gave me 3 minutes to speak, 10 minutes to speak, 15 minutes to speak, you was going to remember this. Like, there, and I've always had that same mindset. I have it a different way from what you heard from the chaplain. And it's 1 Samuel 17, when David goes to fight Goliath, he says, "Today the Lord will conquer you and I will kill you and cut off your head."
Yeah.
That always let me know that I can't do any conquering, but I can do some killing. So God has to do the conquering, or else I can't even kill right here.
Right.
Right. And if I always attribute the conquering to him, then he will accredit me with the killing. He will give me the privilege, the honor to kill something.
Right.
And so I always took that mindset into whatever assignment I had. Like, Lord, Holy Spirit, if you don't show up, there's nothing I can say that's going to change somebody's heart, that's going to make them get closer to God, that's going to make them believe that Jesus Christ is Lord and that God raised him from the dead. But I bet you what you're not going to be able to say is, I don't know this text today. I bet you what you're not going to say is that I haven't communicated in a compelling way and broke down this story in such a way that you stop seeing these characters and started seeing yourself. Like, that mindset is just always, I'm not sitting up there going, I don't know how it happened. The Lord I just went up there and then just the Lord. Nah, fam.
No, I studied.
Nah, I studied. You know what I'm saying? I studied. I went through 3 commentators on this joint because I was just trying to figure out if I'm even in the book. I got a high school diploma. You know what I'm saying? So, man, that work ethic, I'm always trying to tell the dwellers, man, work ethic is important.
Yeah.
If you just hoping to get lucky, you're not going to be here long. You just going to visit.
Right.
So, man, that's dope.
Yeah. No, it's that whole thing in scripture, we quick to jump on the, he gonna make you the head and not the tail, and above and not beneath, and the lender not the borrower, the first will be last.
Right,
last will be first. But I literally watched God take me from the back. And I mean, it was an escort. The first game of the season, we're playing against, I'm just happy to be there.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's just keep it real. At this point, I'm like,
week 1, you just happy to still be on the roster.
Yeah, I'm like, let me not mess up so I don't get sent home. Run down on my 2-3 kickoffs. Like, I'm just trying to stay there.
Yeah, for sure.
The guy in front of me goes down with an injury. They put me in the game. I'm like, bro, I'm playing? And I'm like, I'm really out here playing. Wow. We win the game. We're on the plane. We're headed home. Marty Schottenheimer, head coach.
Marty. He a legend.
Legendary.
Yeah.
Man. God bless his soul. He calls me. He's like, come here. And I'm like, uh-oh. We won the game, but I'm just like,
right.
I have no idea. I'm green.
Right. He
said, Rodney's going to be down. You're up. I'm like, I'm up. What that mean?
Right. You're like, I know what the playbook means.
Yeah.
But I don't know what up means.
He said, you're going to be starting. Man, when I got back to our seat and I looked out that window of that plane, I mean, waterworks.
Oh, man, I can't even imagine.
Because I'm like, I'm seeing everything. Because you talking about in a matter of 4 months, sitting by that lake saying, why you do that to me, God?
For sure.
You set me up.
Yeah.
To now, September 15, 2002, 1:15 in the afternoon. I know the date, time, all of it.
Dang.
I'm sitting there, my first NFL start. I remember the Star Spangled Banner. I remember the Jets flying over the stadium. I mean, I'm sitting there like Holy Ghost crying. Because I'm like, how?
Yeah, fam.
I was ready to get this up.
Yeah, fam.
And here's a moment. I look across the field. So we're playing against the Houston Texans. This is their first year of their organization, right? 2002. Now, remember, I went to Fresno State.
Yep.
Number 1 overall pick, 2002, David Carr. That's my teammate.
Wow.
That's my teammate. So I'm standing there doing the national anthem. I look over there and I see Dave. He's standing there, just, and I'm like, all of this is going through my head. I'm like, God, he was first.
Yeah.
I was last.
Wow.
And we got the same opportunity. We got the same opportunity. I picked him off that day too.
Hey,
sorry, Dave.
Let's go, memory.
But man, I just to be in that moment and to say like, God, you're a miracle worker.
Yeah, fam.
You really are.
Bro, that makes me emotional, dude. It really does. I'll never forget when I so when I was 24 years old, I was ordained as the youngest elder at the Potter's house.
Wow.
And when I was 30, Bishop Jakes hired me to be the young adult pastor. And so, I joined the church in 1997. I was 22 years old. I just turned 22. Did I just turn 22? Yeah, I just turned 22. And give my life to Jesus 18 months before. I'm now at this church, this larger than life figure, and I kind of grow up under his ministry, miming, rapping, vacuuming the carpet, serving in the youth ministry, whatever. So I get hired at 30. I'll never forget the first Sunday at that service. The Steve Lawrence sang, and the choir sang, Potter's House Mass Choir sang Total Praise. Lord, I will lift my eyes to the... I mean, it was just sweeping. I was bawling, okay? I am bawling. It was the equivalent of the Star Spangled Banner,
yes,
right?
Sir.
For church, right? I think Total Praise is the Star Spangled Banner,
man,
for church, right? So I'm crying my eyes out. Bishop Jakes walks in. And we connect eyes. And whatever deep, heavy sobbing I was doing hit another gear. Like, we connected eyes, and like my nose was like, more snot now. And my eyes were like, ocean saltwater tears now. And I literally took 2 steps forward and literally fell in his chest. And ugly snot cried into his suit. A clean suit that man would. I know I put boogers on this man's suit. I put wet boogers on fam's suit. He haven't even preached yet. And I'm about to be a part of his sermon. it was the ugliest cry ever. And this dude just held me.
Yeah.
For like 2 minutes straight. I'm bawling my eyes out. And then at the end, he patted me. I remember them 2 pats, and he giggled. You're welcome. And walked away.
Wow.
I could, in that moment, same way you were on that plane, 1:15, went back to your seat, looking out the window. I remember in that moment thinking to myself, I am from Inglewood, California.
Yeah.
And I was never supposed to be here.
Wow.
My parents' church had 50 people in it. The day I got saved, I think it was 47. The highest attended services they had is when I started preaching there once a month. Last Sunday of every month, we would get to like 90, 95. You could have never made me believe I was going to wind up at a church like Potter's House on staff,
Right.
preaching. So that is like those moments you just never take for granted.
Right.
Because you know what it took to get there.
Yeah.
And no matter how long it lasts, whether it lasts for 20 years or 20 minutes, you can never forget it. And it can never be taken away.
Right.
Oh, man. Dang. Okay, what else we talking about? I don't even know where to go from there. I'm stuck.
Man, here's the other part about just the journey, because here's the thing that most people don't realize. That business is brutal.
It is.
It's brutal. I played for 4 teams over the course of 8 seasons.
Okay.
Every 2 years we were moving somewhere.
Yep.
So I was the consummate journeyman, as they say.
Yep.
And my wife was amazing, right? We met literally in the first month of my rookie season. So she was with me the entire journey. You know, we courted for 2 years, got married. By the time I was leaving San Diego, I ended up in Detroit. So, you know, we got married. She came with me. And, man, it was just not an easy pathway.
Yeah.
Because the life of a free agent is like, you're expendable at all times.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And you can outperform. At one time, I ended up starting on a team, and the guy that was in front of me was the highest paid player at the position in the entire league.
Wow.
And at some point, I end up playing in front of him. And then the next year, they draft somebody else to come in front of me. Like, it was just, right.
It don't even make no sense.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like, he getting how much? Okay, so I can get a little bit.
Right, exactly.
And I end up out of town. So that became the norm. Unfortunately, change of coaches, things would just happen.
Yep.
And it was always like, hey, let me prove myself, climb up the totem pole, become a contributor.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's like, now I got to prove myself again. So it was this constant thing. And the last year of my career, I was in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And typically what ended up happening is anytime I got released from a team or waived, those are just kind words for fired.
Right. Exactly. right.
So when I get cut, I would get picked up immediately.
Yeah.
Because by that time I kind of had a reputation as a, really, really good special teams player and a spot starter, a reliable, smart player.
Mm-hmm.
And so always I would get picked up. And then I go to Denver, I get signed, I play a season there, I come back. This is now my 8th season.
Mm-hmm.
I go into training camp. I have a solid training camp. And by this time, again, the business.
Yep.
So I'm an 8-year veteran. There's a veteran minimum that I have to make, that they have to pay me. So I don't get to negotiate and go in there and just like, hey, I'll take
Right,
whatever.
exactly. Yeah. They gotta pay you.
They gotta pay me that.
Yep.
And so if I'm not somebody that's out there all the time, it's like, hey, we can get 2 young dudes for that price. And so again, so I end up getting released literally if cuts were Wednesday morning at 9:30 p.m. a.m. 9:28, they called me. I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
That's worse than HR making you work a full day.
Man.
And then at 4:58, like,
I did not
come
see
to
it.
the office?
I did not see it coming. I'm gonna be honest.
What?
And by that time, I figured it out. Like you could get a feel.
Yeah,
a
yeah, for
vibe.
sure.
I didn't see it coming, and so I get released.
Mm-hmm.
I go home, and I work out 2 teams a week. Are calling me. I'm going here, there, everywhere, working out for all these teams, and so I finally get to the point where I'm like, we're now 3 months into the season. I'm like, I'm gonna be home for Christmas. So this season's a wrap. Let me just train and prepare myself for the next season. I end up getting signed by Denver again.
Okay.
So they bring me back. There's about 4 games left in the season. And at the end of the season, so I come back for those 4 games, someone got injured. And so, it was just like plug and play. They just
for
put
sure.
me right back in.
Yep.
At the end of the season, I go in for exit meetings, and the coach is just like, okay, so if you go into player relations or whatever, then we'll sign you and bring you back next year. And I was like, wait a minute, why? And he was like, huh? I said, what's gonna be different next year? And they weren't used to people saying stuff like this because he's like, what do you mean? I said, okay. I said, let's retrace. I said, you tell me what I could have done differently this year during training camp. I said, I had a solid training camp. I said, what could I have done differently? He's like, honestly, nothing. He's like, it was kind of a numbers game. I said, okay, so when homeboy's healthy again,
right,
who's the odd man out?
Yep.
And he was just like, well, what you gonna do? I said, just let me go into free agency, man. I said, at this point, I'll be a 9-year vet. I got a decent reputation in the league. I'm healthy. I'm not going to be playing much longer, but let me finish somewhere where they want me. And I got a chance to make a team. So he's looking at me and he's like, nobody's ever really come like that. You're right. But man, he's like, okay. And I walked out of that office not knowing that would be the last time I ever saw a field. I didn't get another workout.
Wow.
Not a single workout. All the coaches that blew my phone up every time I was on the waiver wire, all the college coaches that were now in higher positions, they wouldn't take my call and they weren't calling me.
Wow.
And I could not understand that. I said, God, I don't get it. I'm healthy. I know the game better than I've ever known it. I know I can play and contribute. I can go somewhere and be of value to an organization. And I fell into a dark place. dark place. I'm sitting around for months, training every day, just like, because I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the phone to ring.
There's going to be a call.
And that phone would not ring. I would walk into the gym some days and literally just turn around and walk out. Like, what are you doing? Wow. I'm falling into a place of depression, high levels of anxiety, migraine headaches. My wife was amazing. I'll never forget. I was in the kitchen one day, and I'm sure I was not fun to be around.
Yeah.
Because my temperament is just off. Like, my patience level, I'm just frustrated, bitter. I wouldn't watch football. Like, I was just in a bad spot. She said to me, she's now been a hairstylist over 20 years. Mm-hmm. Her gift, her talent. And she says to me, I think I know what you're feeling now. And I said, what do you mean? She said, God gave me a glimpse of what you're feeling. She said, if somebody came to me tomorrow and just said, today's your last day doing hair. You don't get a say so in this. It's over tomorrow. When you wake up, that's it. She said, I would have to grieve and go through a death process. She said, and that's what you're doing right now. She said, and God allowed me to see and feel that. And that pulled me out of the dumps.
Wow.
Just to get up another day and be okay with it. And again, I was struggling because you couldn't have convinced me that football defined me.
Yeah.
I felt like I was so much bigger than that. Like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
And I was lost and didn't know what to do. I started praying. I'm asking God, I'm like, give me a sign, show me something. I'm like, speak to me. Like, if you're not going to give me this thing back, then give me peace. Please.
Yes, sir. If this ain't coming back, give me peace.
Give me peace. Give me peace.
Wow.
I'm laying on the floor.
Wow.
And I'm praying like that. I'm having real conversations with God. I'm like, I need you right now. Like, I don't even know who I am when I look in the mirror. I open up the word. I can't make this up. I open up the word. I'm laying on the floor in the bedroom. I just look down, and I just open it up. Exodus 14. I'm like, 15.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
The Lord said to Moses, why do you keep crying out to me? Tell the people to move on. I'm going to stop right there for a minute. True story. I am in that moment when I tell you peace that surpasses all understanding, that guards your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus.
Yes, sir.
I don't even know. It was a flood of peace that shot through my spirit. And God just spoke to me. He said, son, it had to be this way. He said, because of the way that you're wired, you will never quit.
It's true.
He said, if
You're
I didn't
helping
shut
me, sir.
every single door, you would have kept trying till you was 40 years old, 50 years old. He said, as long as they would have been giving you a workout, you would have kept showing up ready and saying, I can still do this. He said, I had to close it down in order for you to realize I got something greater for you. Yeah. I'll never forget that moment. I'll never forget that moment. It took me to a place where I began to experience healing, but here's the thing that it took me time to realize. I was still damaged.
For sure. That's good.
Because you can
That's
go
very honest.
If you go through a fight, right? Even if you win the fight, you might come out with, a couple loose teeth,
Fat
a
lip.
fracture.
Yeah.
There's something beneath the surface that's hemorrhaging that you may not know is still there. And I didn't know the level of pain that I was still enduring because of this thing. I didn't even know that it affected me that bad. At this point, I'm like moving on. I'm doing new stuff. And there's still something in me. I'm sitting in church one day and we're in worship. And I'm going to be honest. I had gotten to a point where I could not submit myself to active worship because I was just so hurt. Mm-hmm. So I would sit there and raise your hands in the sanctuary. I'm not raising my hands because I'm just like, and I'm sitting there this day and it's punching me in the chest like, doof, doof. I'm feeling the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit. And I got my head down and I'm weeping. And God starts speaking to me again. It's that same still small voice he spoke to me that day when he said, it had to happen this way. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting there and God said, when you gonna come clean? I said, what you mean, sir? I said, when you gonna come clean? He said, you've pointed the finger at your agent. You've said the team, the general manager, the coaches, you've been angry at everybody. He said, won't you be real? You mad at me.
I knew it was coming.
He said, are you ready to admit that I let you down?
I knew it was coming.
I wasn't ready because I didn't know it. I felt it, but I didn't know it until he revealed it to me. And it was in that moment that I surrendered myself and I said, okay, God. Okay. First off, forgive me. Thank you for showing me that. And how do I move forward from here? Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, that thing was a journey. I didn't know that it had a grip on me the way that it did. And even years later, it was still dealing with me. Mm. I was being healed in layers.
Yeah. That's the only way to be healed, though.
Yeah.
Like thoroughly healed.
Right.
Man, your honesty is so refreshing. It's so refreshing. I know we joked earlier about the people that edit their testimonies.
Right.
But like there's such a your story is so humanized. And most people don't share their story as nuanced as you're sharing it with me.
Yeah.
And it's like I can identify with you. That's why I knew it was coming. Like I could literally identify with you about being in the Lord's presence and being like, yeah, nah, fam. And him not even being petty.
Right.
Like, oh, you ain't gonna talk to me? Oh, you ain't gonna lift your hands? Well, then I ain't talking to you. When you can praise me, then I'll talk. You know what I mean? Like in the midst of you feeling all of that, for him to be kind enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like he's very kind and he's not judgmental.
Yeah.
Like he knew you were mad at him.
Right.
You didn't know you were mad at him.
Right.
right. Like, oh my gosh, man. So, and then you talk about these layers. So that's an important thing. And I would love for you to elaborate on that any way you feel. But bro, those layers, we'll stay with athletics, right? So you get an injury. Let's say you get an injury to your ankle. You don't get back on the field when you can put pressure on it.
Right.
It ain't healed yet.
Right.
Just because you can do something that you couldn't do before doesn't mean the healing process is complete.
Yeah.
That's why Achilles injury takes 12 to 14 months. Right?
I know.
Not 6 to 8. maybe you are doing rehab at that point, but that don't mean you ready to cleat up from the feet up to go get beat up. Right? The bars just happen. I don't even try. It's just so. What were those layers for you?
Yeah. And again, it's you don't know until it's revealed, because some of that, now I'm just walking wounded and I have no idea. I'm just doing the best that I can and convincing myself that I'm okay.
Yep.
And I'm over this.
Yep.
Right. And so all of a sudden, I'm going through the next season of life. Two things I did not want to do is I didn't want to coach and I didn't want to go into broadcasting. That's what all the players do, right? I'm like, I didn't want to do either of those.
Yep.
God called me into a situation where I had the opportunity to coach. But before I go there, I want to share kind of more of how he was healing me through the layers. So,
yeah, for sure.
So we would go to these events, right?
Yep.
And boy, the basement does have that effect, that vulnerability. Oh my gosh. You got me telling stuff. Lord. I do tell my people at Salt Church International that we believe in being real, revealing, exposing, authentic, and legitimate, but this is another level.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
thank you. Because it's a gift. We could never demand it.
It's wonderful.
Thank you
it's wonderful
for trusting
and
us.
freeing.
Grateful.
So we would go to these events, and sometimes it would be like alumni events where there are other players there, their spouses. It might be even a ministry-related event that they put on for former players. And my wife said something to me. She said, I notice every time we go to these, like, she's like, something is different about you. She's like, you're not yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm cool. And she's like, you're not. Like, I just noticed something about you. And I don't know what it is, but we need to figure out what that is. Because every time we come in these atmospheres, like, you just clam up, like something is off. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't care to. There was still like a level of bitterness when I would walk in those arenas that just I couldn't, really identify. So God did something for me. I got a call, and in the midst of that call, a gentleman offers me an opportunity to be a part of a business opportunity, essentially. And thank you, sir. And it involves a number of other players, and they're all former players, right? He calls me. He says, I want you to come down, be a part of this. And again, mind you, I'm still dealing with imposter syndrome. Every situation I walk into, I'm doubting now whether I have what it takes.
Right.
If I'm valued enough.
Right.
I'm struggling through worthiness all the time.
Yep.
And anytime somebody gives me a hint of rejection, it takes me immediately back to the day that I didn't get drafted.
Gotcha.
Over and over.
Wow.
So that stuff I'm just constantly dealing with.
Yeah.
And so he says, I want you to be a part of this or whatever. And it's one of those situations that just sound too good to be true. The names he dropping of who's involved and, this is what we gonna do and this is the kind of money you got the opportunity to make. I'm just like, nah, I don't believe it. So he tells me, hey, we're gonna fly you out, come down, be a part of this. And I'm still wondering if the people he said is gonna be involved in this. I'm just like, I don't believe it. So I go to the hotel, they got an agenda, be downstairs for this meeting or whatever. I walk into this room and I'm in the midst of like Hall of Famers, all these big name players, like dudes that I grew up like, oh man, and I'm looking around the room and immediately I become this big. And I think about what my wife said and I'm just like, here we go again.
Wow. Because
they all know each other, everybody dapping each other up.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy in the room. Now I got to go introduce myself,
right?
Right.
I
wasn't that dude. So I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm such and such. And so we're sitting in the room and the gentleman who invited me, he has a conversation with me on the side and he goes, what do you think? And I'm like, bro, this legit. Like I didn't really think. And he's like, no, but how you feel? And I said, I'm wondering what I'm doing here. And he said, what? I said, yeah, I'm kind of wondering what I'm doing in the room.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and in the course of the meeting, you know, people are giving feedback, input, and I'm contributing to the conversation. And in the middle of me talking, he goes, wait a minute. And I'm like, huh? And he said, I mean, he just put me on blast in front of everybody in there. He's like, 15 minutes ago, he said to me, I don't know why I'm here. He goes, do you hear what's coming out of this dude's mouth?
Wow.
He looked at me, he said, that's why you here.
Wow.
He said, you belong here.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm trying to take all of that in, you know, and I'm seeing the vibe is changing. People are, you know, like coming to me, you know, just these dudes that I, you know,
for sure,
that I looked up to for who they were on the field.
Yeah.
I left that hotel, and the next day, one of my business partners and friends picks me up. He's taking me to the airport, and I said, man, God just did something for me. He said, what? I said, man, God just healed me. I said, another layer just came off. That thing that my wife was talking about, the problem was every time I got in the room, in that atmosphere, I went back to not feeling like I was enough.
Wow.
I got back to feeling like I wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't worthy. Like they didn't choose me.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and God literally said to me that night when I went back to my room, he said, that's done. He said, you ain't gonna never feel like that again. He said, because the way you look at them and what they were able to do on the football field, he said, this next season for you, that's how they gonna look at you. Boy. Layers, man, coming off.
Yeah.
Coming off. And I didn't even know that I was affected that much for that long.
Yeah.
I remember I was reading a book, and it was a journal, and it asked you, you know, because now, man, I'm a proponent for therapy. You know, I'm in there every 2 weeks. You know, like I'm growing.
Yeah.
And so I'm all about, like, God, how can, in addition to my faith and my belief in you and my reliance upon you, like, what natural tools do I have to grow in this season of life? I'm reading this book, and it's a journal, and every day it takes you through this growth process. And shout out to the brother that wrote it. He's a former player as well, but the book is called Just Heal, Bro, for men. And every day is asking you questions. It's telling you, like, hey, you know, when you were a child, this and this and that, and this and this and that. And so every day it's saying, like, you know, it's asking you questions. You got to write them down, right? You write down, like, okay, this is what I got out of this, and it made me think about this. And so I have this habit, even when I study scripture, that I always go back and I look at what I read or studied the day before. And then I'll jump into whatever else God is taking me into that day. So it's almost like a revisitation.
Yeah.
So in this particular journal, I would go back and read the things I wrote the day before. So it's like day 7. And it keeps telling me, you know, write down when this started. Write down the moment when you felt this. And every single time, when I didn't get drafted, when I didn't get drafted, when I didn't get drafted, when I didn't get drafted. And at this point now, I found the root.
Oh, for sure.
I'm like, okay, so this is why all of this is the way that it is.
Wow.
And man, when I tell you, God's just been ripping them layers off, bro. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I had to defeat it when Sam was in the DM. Because I'm like, no, they don't really want me to come. Not me. Why? I've been watching this show. I know who they have on there. How many followers they got? Like, all the foolishness, right? Yeah. But I got victory over that thing.
And so as you sit here today, you know you belong here.
I know I belong.
Yeah. This is fire. Oh man, I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm very, very proud of you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
There are very few athletes from any background that have the level of self-awareness and vulnerability that you do. Most of the athletes that I experience, like most of those in military and that have served in law enforcement, firefighters, just first response. You know, NFL is a first response type of game.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a contact. I am going at you.
Yes, sir.
You're coming at me. I'm coming at you. Right? It is a active and reactive game of chess, right? With human bodies.
Yeah.
And that usually leaves for much more self-consciousness than self-awareness.
That's good.
And when you're conscious of self, you're not conscious of much else.
Okay.
When you're self-aware, you can also, it also raises your awareness for the things around you and the people around you as well. So, man, just hearing you talk is just like so refreshing, because most athletes don't get there without doing a lot of work, and it feels like you already had some of that in you. Your heart was already soft. It's like the Lord didn't have to like chip away at stone to get through to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. This is good. This is good. I'm grateful that the dwellers get to hear what's coming out of your heart, because you are addressing a lot of issues right now. That's why I'm so quiet. I ain't trying to interrupt it. I'm just it's dope.
Yeah. No, it's freeing to release it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more smaller platforms you could release it, but again, there's something about this atmosphere that welcomes that freedom to, let those things out. And I believe it's healing
For sure.
in the process.
Absolutely.
Even as you discuss it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, therapy is so important.
It is.
Because I hear you say it often, if it don't come out, it's gonna come out.
Right? Exactly.
So
it's gonna come out of your mouth, it's gonna come out of your body.
Yeah, you gotta find an outlet.
That's right.
And it's a blessing. I shared with you, and this is just one of those like God smile moments again.
Yeah.
And I want to share. I told you I didn't want to go into coaching. And so I get a call 3 years after I've now officially retired.
Mm-hmm.
And I just been kind of trying to find my way, struggling through that, really just battling through everything that comes with that process of just trying to get to the next space of, identifying who you are without the game. And so I get a call to become a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, they called me and I was just like, I'm not really interested. And he was like, well, okay. They called me again and said, well, would you be willing to come and sit down and just talk about it? I said, yeah, I mean, it don't hurt to talk about it. So, I told my wife, Ty, I said, okay, let's go. I said, because if this is something I'm doing, this is what we doing.
Right.
And so, because it's going to change the dynamic. Because what you got to understand is that for 8 years now, she's been traveling with me, all these different cities. Now we're starting to have kids. So now life is settled.
Yeah, for sure.
So she's able to, lock back into her career.
Yep.
Now I'm able to stay home with the kids.
Yep.
And, the home dynamic just kind of flip-flop.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if I do anything that's going to demand my time, like it's gonna change our home dynamic.
Absolutely.
So we go and we sit down, and I'm sitting down with the principal, the athletic administrator, the CEO, and we're in there talking, and they had, I guess maybe about a year or two prior to that, I was speaking somewhere doing like a leadership deal. The entire school was there, you know, and I remember that moment.
Yeah.
So at least there was some familiarity. They knew who I was, all
Right.
that type of stuff. And so they're telling me, they're like, well, you know, we have a vacancy. And I knew the guy who was the former head coach. They was like, we have a vacancy. You know, we've been looking maybe 13 different states, 60 different applicants. And, you know, after about 15 minutes, they're like, we want to offer you the job. I was like, I didn't apply.
We came to talk.
Yeah. And
I'm weak. That's hilarious.
so I really was honest with them, right? I said, I've played football for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
Like, you know, since I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, you know, I'm like 32. I'm like, I played the game forever. I know football. I'm like, I never coached a day in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know the first thing, especially like out the box to be a head coach. Of
Right.
you know, it's the largest Lutheran school in the entire country, Faith
Wow.
Lutheran High School in Vegas.
Wow.
They're like, I said, I don't know anything about coaching. Like, I wouldn't know where to start with hiring, firing, staffing, you know, practice planning, organization. And they said, but we believe you're a leader. When I say it was like a Gideon moment, like, you mighty man of valor, like, who you talking to? I'm in the wine press threshing wheat. Like, literally called something out of me that I didn't even feel like was in me.
Uh-huh. Yes, sir.
I tried every way to say no to that. I said, can you guys give me, you know, some time to think about this, pray about this? And I legit was seeking God.
Yeah,
for
sure.
I was fasting. I was laying before the Lord. You know, my wife had already said she's amazing. She's like, you know, whatever you say, you know, I'm with it. You know, everybody, I had a family meeting. I sat down with everybody. I said, this is going to change if I do this. And they were like, well, you know, whatever you say, we with it. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to find reasons to say no. So, you know, I'm like, well, they ain't going to go for this. So I call them and I'm like, well, what about this? And then, that's fine. I'm like, okay. I mean, I put the fleece out there at least 6 times. And I finally got to the point where I knew, like, God is saying, this is what I'm calling you to in this season. And here's the beauty of it. You know, I'm combining 2 of the most important things outside of my family in the world to me in this season of life.
For sure.
Which is the ministry, the gospel of Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and football,
Mm-hmm.
which has been such a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to, with no holds barred, with no limitations, no blockages, I can build this program foundationally on the things of God. Like, I'm talking pray with them,
Yeah, for sure.
baptize, whatever we want to do.
Absolutely.
I could have been offered a job to coach anywhere.
Yep.
But this is where
Yep.
they offer me. And eventually I say, okay, God, okay, this is what you say. I say yes to it. We go in. They introduce me. You know, it's a big deal. I'm a former NFL player, so it's in the newspaper, and they have a meeting where it's like, you know, come and meet the new coach. We're in the library at the school, right? And don't ask me why, because first off, I still don't know what I'm doing.
And you tried to tell them.
I tried.
You tried to tell them.
I still don't know what I'm doing. So I'm faking the funk real good.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm a public speaker, you know, man. I can do that.
Right.
You know, I can fool you with words.
Yep.
So I'm up there and so they open up for Q&A, and people are asking me questions about, like, well, who are you going to hire for this? And, you know, we brought our kids here for this. And, you know, it's a private school where people pay a tuition for their kids to go.
Absolutely.
Like, they pay for an experience.
Yeah, for sure.
In every aspect.
Yep.
And they're questioning me, like, what makes you think, you know, because you played the game? I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And I'm up there working my way through these questions, and we get in the car afterwards. We go to Panera Bread, me and my wife. She said, babe, I felt so bad for you. I said, I feel bad for me too.
That makes 2 of us, hun.
I said, I don't know why I did this.
Wow.
Like, I really was like, what are you doing? And man, I ain't gonna make this story take too long, but I go back and the first 3 months of this is just absolute torture. I mean, I'm going to the, and not because of anybody. It's just me.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I'm just struggling through it because I'm trying to figure it all out, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist.
Yep.
You know, I'm hard on myself.
Yep.
Like I expect a level of excellence that, you know, I expect of me first.
Right, for sure. Absolutely.
And so I'm pushing. Like I go hard. My wife say that I put blinders on when I get focused on something. Like it's like nothing else matters.
I get it.
And I'm locked in. And I'm trying to make this thing work. And I can't tell you how many days I sat in the office with the door closed, like in tears. Like I'm overwhelmed. God, what am I doing? I'm in over my head. I don't think maybe I didn't hear you correctly. And one day I'm at church and God says to me, you said yes with your mouth. You didn't say yes with your heart. And it's going to be torture until you do.
Dang.
And I just had to admit he was right. And then I had to ask him like, okay, well, help me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't even know what that looks like.
Yeah.
And God started speaking to me. I'm gonna speak this thing up. One night we're it's a late night because you building a program in the beginning. It's late nights. You know,
absolutely.
You're studying, trying to develop a culture.
Yep.
And God had given me a theme for the team, and the theme was "We will win." And God said to me, "I'm giving you that because you need to paint a picture where the culture becomes winning in everything." And I'm not just talking about on the field. Like that's a byproduct. Because the foundational principles of the program were built on character, integrity, accountability, and excellence.
Okay.
And our priority system was God first, your family, your academics, football, girls, everything else at the bottom.
Yep.
So I spent a bunch of time building it that way. You know, Proverbs 16:3, commit to the Lord, whatever you do, your plans will succeed. All of this is like, this is who we are.
Yep.
And then football is just second nature.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know, if we do this, I promise you we're going to have success.
Absolutely correct.
And so I'm spending all this time and, you know, we will win. We're trying to build this culture. I walk out one night. It's about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. My car is like the last car in the parking lot. And I've had maybe 1 or 2 of these moments in my entire life. I'm walking in my car and kind of out of the corner of my eye, I see like lights. Like I see like a brightness. And I get kind of just stuck and I look over there and it's almost like in that moment, I could see that stadium lit up. I see it full. I see news trucks. I hear fans. And I'm like, what? And God said, are you willing to believe me for that? And I'm like, what? I go home, I wrestle with this. I tell my wife. The next morning I woke up, God says, tell them what you saw. I'm like, I'm going to look like crazy, man. He says, tell them what you saw. I pulled them all in and I said, man, God showed me a level of success that I don't even know is attainable, but he showed me and asked me, am I willing to believe for that? These kids start buying in on a level that is just unbelievable. I mean, they're speaking the language. There was a kid who did a preseason interview. In the interview, he says, we're senior heavy. He goes, we're ready to go. State championship is the only thing that's acceptable. We will win. He says this in the paper. It's quoted, picture there of him. And I'm like, man, these kids really believe. We go out, first game, get mollywopped.
Hey, you a real one, fam. Anybody that knows mollywopped is my dude for life, fam. Hey, dog, we gonna be friends forever.
We get mollywopped, Tim.
We gonna be friends.
Tim dealt with. Like, I don't even know what to say after the game. I'm looking in their faces. I'm like, what do I say? I'm telling them we gonna win.
Coach Vernon in the locker room talking about we might win. We might. I'm dead. Y'all got mollywopped.
Mollywopped.
Listen.
Oh.
Y'all got to look it up in the Urban Dictionary, fam. We ain't got time.
Yeah, sorry.
We know what we talk about. You got to go figure it out.
We get served. And the next day, when I tell you there was such a deep level of conviction and belief, no matter what, I broke out in tears in front of the staff because I'm just like, y'all acting like y'all don't believe. Like the next day, I'm like, I'm so embarrassed afterwards. I'm like, what was that? Like, dude, what's wrong with you?
They got 2 black eyes. Front teeth popped out, and you're like, you gonna win this fight.
Like, what is wrong with me? Like, I started crying.
Wow.
So the next game, so this is what I told him. I said, listen, we just got to be better than we were the last week. Like the goal is every week be 1-0. Let's be better than we were the last week. The next week we go into overtime and we still take a lesson. I don't count it as a loss unless you don't learn from it.
Understood. I got that. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm feeling a little better about the situation.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I say, listen, that's a step in the right direction. Long story short, we win the next week, the next week, the next week. We run off 12 straight, Tim. State championship.
No! I was not prepared for this.
At this time, the school's been around 34 years, never had a state championship. State championship, Tim.
Hey, homeboy, take me slower. Don't do this to me. You are a rookie coach.
Rookie coach.
Now, you know I see everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I will say, I was on the side of this school.
Yeah.
When they identify you for a leader.
Yeah.
Because what I saw in my mind when they offer you that job was the Vernon that was writing out that whole defensive scheme.
Yeah.
For yourself and everybody else on the field. That's who I saw. So I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, that dude could do that. He don't even need no. If that's what's in your head, if you can put the playbook back on the chalkboard, you can run a team. Like that's literally what I was thinking when they asked you to. I was like, oh yeah. Because of that, I see that.
Yeah.
I connect dots like that. So all right, now let me go to let me zoom in my scope real quick though. Cause I'm gonna tell you. And this is the drum I'm beating for the rest of my life. Vulnerability unlocks something in people that no other quality or character marking effect does.
Yeah.
It ain't being macho. It's not alpha dog in it. It's not grit. It ain't force, brute strength.
Yeah.
It's vulnerability.
Yeah.
It is an actual superpower, fam. You cried in front of the whole doggone staff? That's what unlocked it. It wasn't going to be like, come on, guys, do better. They saw your heart, heard your heart.
Yeah.
And that's what people go fight for.
Yeah. Let me put you in one of these games, bro. So,
12-2?
12-2. Never lost again. Never took another lesson. Look, so check this. Right around win 10, I think, right? So you know how you get the scouting report on that team and you just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
We're playing against a team that when I tell you on paper, I'm just like, bro, they could get with some college teams. And I'll never forget. So one of my best friends, my brother, Mike Bailey. Mike is on my staff with me. I got another one of my childhood friends, my buddy Jeremy. What I did was I thought this was important from a cultural perspective. I said, whoever's already been on the staff, I want to give them a chance to be retained.
Yeah, good.
Because they're familiar with the culture.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, there's something valuable in that. And I know you like that.
And that's right. Not but.
Yeah. And there was a coach who was the former head coach who had been the coach for 13 years. And what he didn't know, what they didn't know, but what God knew was that one of my prerequisites was that he has to stay on the staff or I'm not going to do it. I told that to God.
Who are you?
I don't know.
Nobody. Okay, keep going, man. What is happening right now?
So I went to him and I said, hey, you know, how would you feel about staying on the staff or whatever? Listen, I said, here's the way I'm going to paint the picture. I said, we're all on the same plane that we've been on. There's been a foundation that's been put in place, and the only thing different is there's just a new pilot. I said, how would you feel about that? When I tell you he was the absolute most humble.
Oh, absolutely. How could he not be?
But he never blinked twice about things that I changed. I mean, and he's been around, 20 years or so. He didn't blink about a thing that I wanted to change, about a tradition that I wanted to shift. He was in full support, so much so that I dedicated that season to him. I told him, I said, I want to get you a ring, man. And I named an award after him that we gave out every year, the Humility Award. Jake Cody Humility Award.
Bro, your cheat code is unfair. Dude, all right, let's be real. Literally what you're talking about, you're putting on a clinic on how to honor, how to step into a transition without the Moses, my servant, is dead. I literally was at a transition years ago. I won't say what country I was in, but if somebody from that country is listening, you know who you are. You know who did it, and you know who you are. So anyway, this dude, they announced the transition of this guy that had been in this position and is going to this guy that had been in the position. This dude gets up, opens up his Bible to Joshua chapter number 1 and reads, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, because my guy's a G and understands this dude's young, it's a rookie mistake, he don't even know how to read the text. Because Joshua didn't make that declaration.
Right.
God did. Right? So when he makes the statement, my boy leans over to him and he goes, am I dead? He was like, can you see me right now?
Yeah.
And if you can anyone see you? like Sixth Sense, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think you might be seeing a dead person. But people don't realize that what God goes on to say to Joshua after he says Moses is dead is that the two things that are going to bring you success is that you don't forget anything that Moses taught you.
Right.
And don't stop studying the book of the law, which was Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Like, bro, like that level of honor, that's a cheat code, man. Not many coaches on any level would be thinking about the last coach. Yeah. They would be on their, I'm the new sheriff in town stump. You know what I mean? Like, things are going to change around here. I know we've had success in the past, but I'm ready to take this thing in the future.
Yeah.
Then it's like, why are you still in the room? Nah, fam, that's...
I meant it so much. I was so convicted and serious about that. I'll never forget, maybe after about 6 or 7 wins in a row, I would have people come in and speak, to the players. We'd have like a game day chapel. We'd have just people come in and encourage. And I'll never forget, somebody came in one day and he had no backstory. He had nothing. Like, I'll never forget. He stood in front of the team and he said something like, what's the difference between last year and this year? He says this to the players, and they're all like, I don't know. Like, they don't know what to say because he's trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
He has an agenda.
Yeah.
And so he says, you know what's different? Leadership. You got better leadership.
Ooh.
Now, he doesn't know who's sitting in the room.
Eesh.
So you know what I do when I go up there? I say, you're wrong, sir. I said, you got different leadership, not better. Because they've already been on a path. And I told my guy after, I said, I'll always protect you and cover you, bro. I'll never let nobody do that to you.
All right, I was trying to be like diplomatic earlier, like you my boy for life. But let's just keep it a buck. Nigga, you my nigga for life. That's just the bottom line. I was trying to be all like, I ain't met this dude before. He got a whole pastorate and people. He got a shepherd. Just tell these niggas that you my nigga for life. Please don't mess with this man. That's yo, fam.
Oh, man.
What?
So let's go back to the 10th win. So
Can you tell me this first?
Yeah.
This is just my own curiosity.
Yeah.
It'll fill in the gap in my brain. What was the record last year? The year prior?
I don't know.
Got you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know they went to the playoffs and
Okay, they did.
it wasn't like it was like this,
Yeah, like they was Colorado, where Dion is right now, right? Like they only had 2 wins all of last season.
Yeah,
No. Okay.
So it wasn't that. God just, man, it was a beautiful collaboration.
Yeah.
Of people that, even the pieces that he put in place. I'll never forget in that 10th game. So the night before the game, I'm like, my boy, who's my brother, who I grew up with, he's on the staff, and we're sitting in his car after practice. And I said, bro, I don't know. Because, we've made it further than people expected us to. And now
this is the scouting report with the team that you was like, they could run through a college or two.
Yeah, like we're watching film and I'm just like too many weapons. Like I don't even know how we match up. Like I don't know how.
Yeah.
And I'm in the car with him and I'm just like, I said, bro, I don't know. My man Mike said, it's gotta happen. I said, what you mean? He said, bro, God is painting this picture. God is writing this story. He said, it gotta happen. He said, there's no way he brought us to this point. He said, you know why? Because we gonna give him the glory. He said, this gotta happen, man. He said, I don't know how. He said, I'm with you. I don't know how. He said, but it's gotta happen. We get to the game, day of the game. Never happens. I'm always giving the pregame speech. A player walks up to me. He says, Coach, can I address the team? Now, typically, what you gonna say?
Right.
Off the mic, right?
Tell me first.
Tell me, right? In that moment, I was just like, have at it. He stands up. He's just like, whatever it takes tonight. He's like, we got to be willing to lay it all out there, do our job. If your numbers call, make the play. We play in this game, and it's a back and forth thing. Like, it's close. We score, we go up. They have one more opportunity. They have the ball. They got enough time to score. If they score, we probably don't have enough time to respond and to win. They throw a pass. Guess who steps in front of it and picks it off? That kid. He ices the game, which means now all we got to do is get it back, down it a few times, run the clock out. I collapsed. Like just fell on the ground in worship.
Dude, don't say that.
I just fell on the ground. My buddy that was in the car with me the night before, Mike, like, you got to get up. You got to get up. I'm like, man, I ain't worried about none of this.
On this floor.
I'm like, I ain't worried about none of this. I'm just face down worshiping. Because I'm like, how, Lord? How?
Oh, my goodness.
I was convinced at that point. I said, can't nothing happen. We going all the way with this. It don't matter what it looked like. And sure enough, the Lord did it. Yeah. I just wanted to share that, man.
Bro, that's unbelievable, fam. Wow. State championship your rookie season.
Bro.
Coaching anybody ever.
State championship, academic state champions, coach of the year. All of this happens first season. Like, I'm still mind blown. Like, I'm taking no credit, obviously. I still don't know what I'm doing.
Are you still the coach for that team?
I'm not.
Okay,
I coached there for 7 years.
Wow.
Was blessed to, 7 championships over the course of 7 years. We won 3 conference championships, 2 coach of the year honors, got 2 dudes in the NFL. Like, God just showed out, man. We went from 3A all the way up to 5A. Now they have another coach who is, has a history. He was an NFL coach. Like, man, program just kind of, it was awesome. To God be the glory.
Hey, fam. Hold on, dog. I know I heard everything you said. I just stopped caring after it was 7 state championships.
No.
Oh.
No, just 7 championships. So
Total.
2 academic state championships, a state championships, 3 conference championships, and a region championship.
Okay,
so
thank you,
7
Jesus.
over the course of 7 years.
Okay, got you. Okay.
100% playoff every single year.
Amen.
We had one season that we were 500. Every other season was overwhelmingly winning season. Playing a national schedule. It was awesome.
Man.
To God be the glory, man. Like, to God be the glory. My kids still go to that school. Like, awesome.
All right, so what you doing now? All this success and things. What does Mr. Vernon do now?
That's how Mr. Vernon got on the basement, because God has strategically over the course, and this is when I was just hit, right?
Yep.
So there's so many similarities.
That's a great story, man.
I heard you talk about, your experience with you and Juliet losing your first child, going through the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
We went through that.
Okay.
Told we potentially couldn't have kids. God blessed us with 2. We got 2 just like you.
Yeah.
Our nuggets we love, man, just amazing. And just this weird space every 7 years, yep. You pastored Embassy City.
Yes, sir.
I'm hearing all of this stuff all the time. So I'm listening and I'm just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Every 7 years, God starts pushing me into a transition.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 8th year, what I've learned is a year of grace.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
the
sir.
7th year is like he starts ruffling my feathers. Like it's time for adjustment, time for change. That's how my career was. That 8th year, I only played 4 games, a year of grace. I accept my call into ministry back during my playing career, right around 2007. After 7 years, I get ordained and licensed in 2014. That's 7 years later. And then right around 7 years after that, God starts messing with us about the next level of ministry leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, Lord, like, first off, how, and you sure us, me?
Yeah.
And that 7th year, God starts ruffling us, and going into that 8th year of grace subsequently is the 8th year of my coaching career.
Wow.
So 7 years I've coached this team, and I've always operated on this model of like a red light, green light system with God.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, as long as the light is green,
Yeah, we going.
I just keep going, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And, and even if I don't hear anything or I don't see anything, I just know the last green light he gave me. I just keep moving forward.
We're aligned in that philosophy.
And then all of a sudden, that light turns yellow. I got to start yielding,
Yep.
slowing down and listening.
Yep.
And sure enough, I come out of that 7th season and something just feels different. God is just like talking to me. And it's funny. I'm riding around with my kids, and my daughter, she's amazing, man, has a great heart for God. She says to me one day, she goes, because I told her, I'm like, I'm telling the family what's going on. I said, I'm going to start seeking God right down for what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It could be coaching. I could still be doing this.
Yeah.
Or I could be coaching somewhere. I have no idea.
Yep.
And so the school was gracious to me. I said, hey, it's Christmas break. I'm like, hey, can I have a little time just to kind of pray and just think about it and figure out? Because truth be told, I had a little side deal with God. I said, I'm doing this 2 years and then,
Right.
That's 7 years later, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So they let me take this time. And I'm riding in the car with the kids. My daughter says to me, Daddy, how do you, because I'm telling her I'm just trying to listen for God. She's like, how do you hear God's voice? I start whispering. I said, how do you hear my voice right now? She said, well, if you're whispering, I have to get close. I said, yeah, baby. I said, how else do you hear my voice? She said, I gotta get quiet and still. I said, you hit it right on the head. I said, so that's what I'm gonna do. I gotta shut down the noise. I gotta go into a level of consecration where I'm removing the distractions. And I gotta know that it's him and not me, my ambitions, my aspirations, all of these things that get in the way. I go on, 21-day fast. And right at the end of the fast, God says to me, okay, it's time to move on. Like he did Exodus 14:15. I'm like, okay, what we doing? And he give me the old Abraham. Come out of your place of familiarity, your comfort zone now, because I've been doing this 7 years now. Like, I mean, this is a system. And he says, go to the place that I'll show you. I'm like, what does that look like? What am I gonna do? Like, what do I even tell these people?
Yeah.
I went in there and I sat down and I said, yeah, God is just kind of telling me it's time to move on. They're like, well, what you gonna do? Gonna go coach in college? Or I'm like, I don't know. That's scary. That's a little embarrassing. Because I'm thinking of all types of stuff. I'm like, well, if you're calling me to resign, but I don't have anything to walk into, people going to think I secretly got fired.
Right.
It's all kind of stuff I'm thinking. I'm like,
I know that feeling. I can identify with you there, brother.
I'm thinking all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, God, but just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And he just wouldn't show me. And then the pandemic happens. So, we were all stuck.
Yeah, we were chilling,
and
we was
trying to figure it out
hard.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out, and I don't know what's next. I'm trying to do stuff. I'm now chasing a few passions. I'm like, okay, there's some things. God gave me a book during the pandemic. Gave me the whole formula for it. There's a whole story behind that. But I wrote a 21-day devotional. That was always a dream of mine to be able to publish a book. And so he walked me through that. And now he's pushing us forward into ministry. And it's all of this transitionary stuff. And that's when I'm listening to you and you're talking about that. You're like, what you say to Preston. The largest moments of frustration is when the grace on a season expires and God doesn't show me what's next. And that's why I'm like, yeah, man, I don't even know if I'm ever gonna talk to this guy or nothing, but that spoke to me. Yeah. And so, yeah, man, that's today. And we say yes to God, and we start the process of planting a church.
So y'all started the process. Has the church already been planted? Where are y'all in that process? How are you feeling? Where y'all at?
So we are now at 15 months.
Okay.
When we start, I'm asking God for the game plan the same way I did with coaching. I'm like, what does this look like?
Yep.
God says build community, fellowship, discipleship.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So we started having a Bible study. First and foremost, I've served at a ministry at that point for 25 years. And that's tough.
Ain't it tough to leave?
That's tough.
Ooh-wee. I know it.
Even if you know you're supposed to.
I know it.
So I'm torn. My heart is, like, man, because I'm heavily involved in the ministry. The ministry is my heart. I adore the leaders.
Yep.
And God is saying, it's time to go.
Yep.
And we complete that service. I'm like, I'll leave when you say. I'm not going until you tell me, and I complete whatever it is that you need on my way out.
For sure.
I want to make sure that everything is aligned, whoever needs to be positioned, trained.
Yep.
I go through that process, and then we jump out there and we just start doing a Bible study in the beginning. It's like, let's just, man, pour into people, community, fellowship, discipleship. And we're doing that. And I'm realizing that the demographic of people that God is sending us to Salt Church International are individuals that have been disenfranchised from church, like, don't really do church, haven't been to a church in a while. And I'm like, okay, well, God, I don't want to just tease these people. Like, how do we keep them? How do we continue to feed them and develop them? And so we start doing an online stream every Sunday. It's just like, okay, well, we're not having church, but we'll do it like church, and we'll film it, put it on YouTube, on Facebook. So we're doing that every Sunday, and then we're meeting in person on Tuesdays, and we're just continuing to develop, a community. People are like, how do we join? I'm like, I didn't even think about that part. Like,
I got nothing for you.
Yeah, like,
sorry.
I don't know. And so then we start obviously putting the foundational tools in place to actually plan a ministry.
For sure.
So we consider ourselves in pre-launch phase until God says what's next. It's almost like he told me, continue to plan, but follow my pace. Don't get ahead of me.
Absolutely correct. It's good.
Don't get ahead of me.
Yep.
So I've gotten ambitious at times, and I'm like, okay, we growing, and let's go get a building, and God shut that down.
Yep.
Quick. He just like, no, follow my pace. You're getting ahead of me.
It's good.
And so that's what we've been doing. We just been pouring and serving and just learning about, what it means to really serve at this level. And we got an amazing group of people. God shared a clear vision with us. In the beginning, he kept giving me the whole international thing, and I didn't like it because I was just like, that just sounds like you trying to be big time. Like, what does that mean? And God revealed to me one day that in the Great Commission, when he says, go and make disciples of every nation, that word in the Greek, ethnos, it means creed, culture, race. God said, that's the international I'm talking about.
Absolutely correct.
He said, that's what I'm calling you to.
Yeah.
The reason you were in the school,
Yep.
and the demographic of most of the people didn't look like you.
Yep.
The reason why I was calling you to speak in churches that were not like the church that you grew up in. The reason why you were a part of, these moments of worship that you didn't get at first, but now you just want to be in the presence of Jesus. Like, that's what it's been all about. He said, Salt Church International.
It's good.
To reach the nations.
Yeah, it's good.
So it's been a blessing, man.
So, oh man, that makes me so hyped. So you said something that's very, I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, so I'm not saying this as like an authority, like I've spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it piqued my interest, and that is that I feel like, this is my sense, I'm not saying it's the Lord, I'm just saying it's like a aha, because I keep hearing it over and over again, that there are churches being planted right now whose assignment will be the same as every church. And God is strategically asking for certain churches to be planted to be the rehabilitation centers for people who got hurt at another church. So here's my Bible for this. And this is very, very specific, and but it's just too good. So in Ezekiel, I think it's 34. It is 34. All right, so I'm gonna just read this. I'm gonna just read this, and you tell me what you hear, because I'm gonna tell you what I hear. Okay, but here's what it says. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds, the leaders of Israel. Give them this message from the sovereign Lord. What sorrow awaits you, shepherds, who feed yourselves instead of the flocks? Shouldn't shepherds feed their sheep? You drink the milk, wear the wool, and butcher the best animals, but you let your flocks starve. You have not taken care of the weak. You have not tended the sick or bound up the injured. You have not gone looking for those who have wandered away and are lost. Instead, you have ruled them with harshness and cruelty. So my sheep have been scattered without a shepherd, and they are easy prey for any wild animal. They have wandered through all the mountains and all the hills across the face of the earth, yet no one has gone to search for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, you abandoned my flock and left them to be attacked by every wild animal. And though you were my shepherds, you didn't search for my sheep when they were lost. You took care of yourselves and left the sheep to starve. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I now consider these shepherds my enemies, and I will hold them responsible for what has happened to my flock. I will take away their right to feed the flock, and I will stop them from feeding themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths. The sheep will no longer be their prey. Then it pivots in verse number 11. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search and find my sheep. I will be like a shepherd looking for his scattered flock. I will find my sheep and rescue them from all the places where they were scattered on that dark and cloudy day. I will bring them back home to their own land of Israel from among the peoples and nations. I will feed them on the mountains of Israel and by the rivers and in all the places where they live, where people live. Yes, I will give them good pasture land on the high hills of Israel. There they will lie down in pleasant places and feed in the lush pastures of the hills. I myself will tend my sheep and give them a place to lie down in peace, says the sovereign Lord. I will search for my lost ones who strayed away, and I will bring them safely home again. I will bandage the injured and strengthen the weak, but I will destroy those who are fat and powerful. I will feed them, yes, feed them justice. It's sobering. I could keep going, but that's the gist.
Yeah.
Here is what my sense is. There's been a lot of people that's been hurt. They still need community, which is why I felt like God gave you that word first in these building blocks, right? Community was first.
Yes.
The order of a thing is really, really important. I feel like those people that got hurt understand after they do their little, I'm wounded, I don't want to hear nobody, I don't want to hear no church, I don't want to be in nobody's church. That desire, automatically starts growing again because we all need community.
Right.
The imagery that Ezekiel 34 gives me is that God, I'm using anthropomorphic terms, but he peeks over the balcony of heaven and he's like, you know what? Y'all shepherds are hot messes. Y'all pastors of these local churches are hot messes. I'm going to take my sheep back. And I'm going to find them another green pasture because it was never going to always be about you. It was never going to always be about your pasture, your pastorate, your building, your whatever you were doing. These are my sheep, so I will call my sheep back to me, and I will find them a new place to graze. I will give them a new community that they'll feel safe in, right? And that's how I feel about the churches that the Lord is raising up right now. I'm not saying this is everybody's assignment, but I believe some churches that God is saying, I need y'all to plant this church. It's because he needs a new pasture for his sheep to feed in.
Yeah.
So when you think about this church, don't just think about lost souls. That's going to happen. Every church is going to reach the lost. But I believe that there are some churches that are specifically anointed by God to be the replacement for churches that have not faithfully cared for the sheep. If you got a restaurant in town and everyone that goes there gets food poisoning, you shouldn't be ashamed that you open up a restaurant that has food that doesn't make people sick. Like, there literally should be nothing in your heart that's like, man, I don't want them to think that I'm trying to take business from them. Your food doesn't make people sick, fam. Make the burger, right? Make the egg rolls, like whatever you're cooking. Make it because people are hungry.
Yeah.
And they deserve to be fed in a way that doesn't make them projectile vomit.
Wow.
They should be fed in a way where they know they're safe and they're not going to be exploited.
Right, right.
And so, I don't know, when you were sharing what God's doing right now, that's what I felt like I needed to share with you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just submitting that to you. I don't know what how that lands or whatever, but
here's the interesting thing too, is that God has unctioned and challenged us as well to call people to a place of accountability. Because there's so many people also that are blaming all of these other things for the condition that exists in them. Mm-hmm. And so you got all these people that's stuck. And they're like the man that sat by the pool of Bethesda for 38 years. And Jesus said, do you even want to be here?
right, exactly.
Like, cause
I have no one to put me in.
It's everybody else, right?
That's right. That's right.
And so the level of accountability that we've called people to is, listen, you can go to a new church. You can move to a new city.
Mm-hmm.
You can go find a new girlfriend, a boyfriend. But if you don't change, you're going to be the same stuck person at the new church.
Right. That's exactly right.
So if you come over here with all that, they hurt me, this and that.
Yeah.
Let's focus on you.
Absolutely.
And the adjustment that scripture calls us to when it says be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Like, and that's been the challenge. And I used to struggle with that because I'm like, God, can I have 1 week where it's like, I make everybody feel good and
right.
We in there praising, and I'm like, every week is a challenge
for people. That's how people grow.
And I've just accepted that's the call.
Man.
That's what he wants us to do.
That was my call.
Amen.
I knew my church was Embassy City under my leadership. It was never going to be a 30,000 person church because I told people to die every weekend. I didn't have no happy new members, nothing. I was like, I'm so glad you're here. You ready to die? I was giving him that notorious B.I.G. every weekend. You ready to die? Are you ready to die? You ready to eat his flesh and drink his blood? It's going to be a pound of his flesh and a gallon of his blood. You ready to drink it? Huh? Not this week? Okay, go back to your happy church. Come back next week when you're ready. Like, I make disciples.
Yeah.
And when you have that focus, it was community, fellowship, and discipleship.
Discipleship, yeah.
When you have those pillars, the church, and we live. Texas has just screwed people up to like the expectations of what the size of a church should be, right? Like,
yeah, we drove by a bunch of them.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
Yeah, exactly, right. So the average church in America is still between 75 and 120 people. You do that, you're doing good, right? That's the average church in America. Yeah. Even with all the big churches, that's 1%, and then the scale slides with baby oil on it. That's how fast it slides down, right? So an average church is 75 to 120 people. I knew I was never going to have in Texas land where you can sneeze and have 2,000 people at your church.
Wow.
You can sneeze and have 5,000 people at your church, right? That was never going to be, I was never looking at those numbers. I knew our church was going to be smaller, and that's relative because our church was bigger than the majority of churches in America, right?
Right.
But I knew it wasn't going to be these astronomical numbers. But like Paul would say, excuse me while I talk like a fool for a minute, okay? What I would say about Embassy City Church, if I could have a bumper sticker that said, my church could beat up your church,
Y'all some riders.
Right? I don't mean that competitively.
Right.
I just mean that the loosest resident of our community at least knew that Bible.
Yeah.
Maybe they were shacking up. Maybe they were still smoking a blunt. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they still had some issues that they was wrestling with. But I bet you they knew that book though. So when you have when you've been given the blueprint for community fellowship and discipleship, make no apologies.
Sir.
Because God wants you to raise up an army. And everybody's never going to make it out of boot camp.
Yeah.
Everybody's never, the majority of people ain't making it out of basic training. It's meant for you to go in for people to fall off. Mm. That way, the people you get out on the other side, those are the ones that make the best. Disciples make the best evangelists. Mm. I always, I would talk to lead pastors are like, where our focus, our emphasis is evangelism. And I'm like, if you ain't got disciples, how they going to evangelize? The disciples make the best evangelists. Ask Peter, ask John, ask Matthew. Like those are the ones that went out and actually did that work. You know what I mean? Amen. So building that type of church is going to lay a foundation and be able to come up against the stronghold. It's in Vegas?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fam. Yeah. Vegas needs that church. He needs all the churches, but I'm telling you, Vegas needs some disciples. So that makes me happy.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we are.
I love it.
That's where we are.
I love it. So y'all don't have, y'all still virtual?
So typically on Sundays we're virtual.
Okay.
And we've moved to a place now where we're aiming to meet once a month on Sundays.
Okay.
So we've picked a Sunday every month where we gather, and the people are hungry for that. And what I'm trying to get them to understand is that there's a level of responsibility that comes with that too. And I'm not a fool. I know that there's a foundation that needs to be put in place and an infrastructure with leadership and, all of the things before we just jump out there and launch, right? Because it's easy to say, hey, I'll be there on game day, but are you going to be there every single day?
Right, absolutely,
so,
for sure.
So that's what we're building right now.
Yeah,
developing, and I'm being poured into and mentored, and I don't know it all. So,
yeah, for sure.
So I'm seeking to grow as a leader and understand, because this is a journey that I've never walked down. So,
yep.
Yeah. So I'm humble enough to, allow myself to be led in this process, and then seeking God along the way as well.
Okay. So before we wrap, are there any questions that you wanted to ask me?
Wow. Ooh. I do have a question, and it's in regards to leadership development.
Okay.
And I guess the biggest thing is, how do you avoid making the mistake of positioning people and giving them a role or a title that maybe they are not prepared or equipped for, while at the same time balancing the tension to know that, if you have someone that is a willing heart that just desires to serve, you can train them
for sure.
But you don't want to sacrifice the need.
Absolutely.
So how would you approach that?
All right. So I'm gonna have a two-pronged answer for this.
Okay.
First of all, when it comes to leadership and appointing people into leadership roles,
yeah,
no matter what it is, I refer to it as the T-bag test,
okay,
especially with a church plan. And my T-bag test has a rhyme to it, and this is the rhyme: you never gonna know what you got or not until you put it in a pot that's boiling hot.
I like that.
Okay, So I can hold up a tea bag and say this is tea. What you would not be able to discern is what kind of tea it is.
Yeah.
Is it lavender? Is it chamomile? Is it lemongrass? We won't know till we put it in that heat. And it's the heat that reveals what is actually in that bag.
Right.
So you can identify a leader, and they could have the resume. They could have worked at another church. They could say oh no, I have it. You can do all the vetting you want. You got to put that joker to work. I mean, you saw this in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They assessed you one way. By week 2, you was a starter.
Yeah.
So you got to put them on the field. And then you have to inspect what you expect. You have to watch and see who's rising to the occasion and who. Thank you, Holy Spirit. There's no such thing as rising to the occasion. That's why he cut me off so quick. Right? People don't rise to the occasion. They fall to their level of integrity. Okay? So you could never get an airplane made out of aluminum to fly at 35,000 feet.
Never.
Ever. I don't care how much you believe in it.
Right.
The integrity of that plane probably got a couple of thousand feet to it.
Yeah.
The atmosphere at 35,000 is going to make that. It's not going to even make it to 35,000. It's going to crumble. Right? The wind, the pressure, the atmospheric change, stratosphere, it's a wrap for that thing, right? So people don't rise to the occasion. Whatever's in you, that's the only place you can go to. You don't have another gear.
Right.
You either had it and didn't know it, or you don't have it at all.
Right.
So people don't rise, they actually fall to their level of integrity. And whatever that level of integrity is, you find out when you put them on the field. There's only so much vetting and pouring into you can do. You got to let that joker play. So with a church plant, everybody gets an opportunity to start.
Okay.
Test everybody. I don't care if you know them or not. When you plant a church, it's identical to a startup company, right? The first people that ride with you are people that you know.
Yeah.
People that are familiar with you, right? I'm there with you. Most of the people you start with believe more in you than they even believe in the vision. And you need those people.
Yeah.
But once it grows, once you have like a little bit of growth spurt, then those people kind of start fading away for the people that are actually bought into the vision.
Can I stop you right there and ask you another question?
Of course you can. Absolutely.
Okay. So once you get to that point and you're able to distinguish, I don't want to call it the wheat from the chaff, but you see a separation.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you wrong for moving in a direction that captures those that are, hey, we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
We've taken the next step of commitment.
Yep.
Because I look at it like this. If I want to go play ball, go hoop, right?
Yep.
I need 5.
Yeah, for sure.
And if I know I got 3 that say, hey, we on the team, I'm gonna give them a jersey.
For sure.
And then there's 2 more that they might just come on game day.
Yep.
And then I can give them a jersey sometimes. But if it don't work out and I can't make it, I don't really know.
Yep.
How do I work to try and pull them on the team, or do I just say, listen, I just need to go with who I know is on the team?
Absolutely. You go with who you know is on the team.
Okay.
Like, do not be afraid to thank the people up to the point that their commitment can no longer continue. Thank them for the time that they gave them, dap them up. Hey, I love you. It's been good. It seems like you have some other responsibilities on your plate. And so I want to give you the opportunity to step off now so we can keep going. Because it seems like, so you don't even have to say, hey, you ain't it. You know what I mean? You lack the commitment. I can see it from here. And so, no. You just say, hey, I've observed that it seems like this is starting to be a stretch for you, and that you might be torn in the commitment. but you don't have the bandwidth, and I really need this right now.
Right.
Give them the opportunity at that point to be like, no, I'm here. Okay. And it's like, well, if you are, would it be difficult for you to like commit to this level and cast a vision for that? I'm not saying it's going to be like this forever, but for the next 9 to 12 months, this is the stretch we need, and this is commitment we need. No, Pastor, I'm down. And then if they say they're down, you're not going to know it when they said they're down. You're going to know it by their actions. This is something I'm always telling my staff. People are always telling you who they are. Sometimes they're telling you with words. At all times, they're telling you with action. Yeah. How they value you, how they submit to you, how they commit to you. So don't be afraid to have what I refer to as those courageous conversations. Yeah. Where you just sit them down and be like, hey, I love you. I appreciate what you're doing already. Yeah. But this is the commitment level I need. Yeah. And if you're not able to do that, I don't want you to feel bad if you need to make a pivot. Yeah. But I want to at least have the conversation with you.
And I think, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really helpful. I think one of the things that we knew from the beginning is that everyone's not going to be called to us.
For sure.
Even people that are there.
For sure. Absolutely.
And there are some people that may just serve in the season of, hey, we're part of the launch team helping you get this thing off the ground. And then after that, might not be there for the long haul. But how do you navigate getting to a point of saying, because here's the thing too, because I told people like, listen, I honestly don't care at the end of the day if all you ever do is just come here and get fed, because that's what we're called to do, is to feed. Right. But there you go. If you are not if you're not willing to commit at a higher level, then hey, come and get what you need. Right. But we can't move forward in terms of building with you. Absolutely. And making you a part of this leadership team. Absolutely. Because I don't know where you stand.
Absolutely correct.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just making sure.
Absolutely correct. I remember Bishop Jakes saying this years and years and years ago, that when you get ready to build a building, you put scaffolding around it. And the scaffolding is all around the building as long as it's still being built. Mm-hmm. The moment the building is built, the scaffolding goes away. Mm. And when you plant a church, not everybody that's a part of that first wave, but many of those people are just the scaffolding. Yeah. They are there to help build. And once it's built, they almost disappear. Yeah. I feel called to something else. I got to move. Hey, they're awkward, because they don't want to hurt the pastor's feelings if they're one of those people. Some people leave emails and they're just rude. Other people just disappear and you call them 4 times and they don't call back, and then you get the clue like, so you didn't even know how to say goodbye. You're not good with goodbyes. I got it, right? You just left, just ghosted us. You can't take any of that personally, and you applaud whatever that season was. Yeah, yeah. Until it's time to do the next thing. Now, I said I had a 2-pronged answer to your question, but I don't remember the second part of it. Do you remember the second part of it?
I cut you off. That's my fault.
No. It's all good. It's all good.
I don't.
Okay, no worries then. But you're cool with the answer that I gave.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. Yeah. And again, that's just reconfirming and validation for what, the type of things we've been told. Yeah. I was talking to a pastor friend of mine one day, and I ain't gonna lie, this shook me. He kind of gave me his story of when the church planted, and he even had like a few families move in from out of state and kind of helped them with the process. And, here they are 10, 12 years into it. And I don't know what prompted me to ask. I was like, man, how many of those families are still with you? He was like, 1. Mm-hmm. I was like, huh? Mm-hmm. I mean, of the entire team of people that they built with, he said 1. Yeah. I was like, wow. Yeah. That shook me a little bit to hear that.
Well, one of the things that we don't consider is in all the transitions that you've made, God is always calling other people in and out as well. Very what I mean?
Very true.
Now, I don't know how you grew up in church, but the way I grew up in church, my pastors, their mindset was, if you're here, you're loyal. And if you leave, you're not. Right? And they didn't, as much as the advent of the verbiage of spiritual sons and daughters has been like kind of in vogue. You got your mentors and your mentees. You got spiritual sons and spiritual daughters, and you got these spiritual mothers and these spiritual fathers. That's not how they actually perceive the dynamic of the relationship. They actually perceive and act out that spiritual dynamic as spiritual husbands and spiritual wives.
You belong to me.
You made a vow. And I'm like, I'm not your spouse. Nigga, I ain't married to you. I'm a son. I'm a daughter. I'm supposed to grow up and get out. You put faith into me. You actually preached the sermons that actually got me pregnant with a word from God. Now you mad that the Lord's telling me to do something else? Did you want me to stay here? Jesus left his disciples before his disciples left him.
And nobody ever pointed that out.
The chief apostle, our chief apostle has been our intercessor longer than he was our apostle.
Wow.
He chunked deuces. How many of them jokers stayed in Jerusalem? Peter, James, Paul was out. Thomas went to India. All these people scattered. It was the diaspora. He told them Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the uttermost parts of the earth. The whole commission, the Great Commission, is get out.
Yeah.
Not stay here.
Yeah.
Them jokers stayed in Jerusalem for 20 years, Vernon.
Wow.
And do you know what happened? Nero's persecution came in.
Yes, sir.
And that's what got them out.
Scattered. Yeah.
They was never supposed to stay where they were.
Yeah. He said, go.
And they would not leave until persecution hit them. And that's why anybody that is always praying about revival in America, I'm like, you keep praying against the very thing that's going to bring revival, which is persecution. This country wants to be too comfortable to have a revival. You need persecution to have a revival.
Wow.
And that's the thing you keep rebuking and casting down and trying to make sure it don't come. And I'm like, as soon as you get your tail tapped, I bet you there'll be a revival here. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. So we have to, I don't want us to adopt that mindset that my heart's gonna break. Now, when a great leader, when it's time for them to go, I feel like throwing up in a trash can. I'd be like, oh, Lord Jesus, you got to leave now. But I realize ain't none of these people mine.
Yeah.
He's not my sheep.
Yeah.
So I always thank him for the time. I always thank him for the time. And I don't care how much I personally want them to stay. I will not interfere with God's movement in their life. Because if he can trust me with them,
Yeah.
not only while they're here, but during their transition, he will send me somebody else just like them.
Wow.
I promise you that. I have never been, the whole time I was a lead pastor, I was never without nobody. This season of my life, God brought that dude, this dude, that girl. Sammy was over there. I know you're a girl, Juliana. Juliana picked up her on that monitor like, I'm still a girl. That dude, that girl, that dude, he brought them to me. And I always tell them, and I don't say this to scare them, but I understand seasons. Mm-hmm. I'm like, we gonna rock out until the Lord says differently. And when the Lord says differently, I'm not gonna make it hard for them to transition.
Yeah.
Because we can always do an OG basement reunion.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be like, well, we're down to 2. Juliana got married and her husband all of a sudden,
New edition without Bobby.
you know what I'm saying, wants to go to another country. Thanks a lot, Juliana's husband. Nah, man, it's there's seasons.
Yeah.
There's seasons to everything. And so don't let that intimidate you.
Yeah.
And don't let that scare you. And don't even brace for it. I just finished a book by Brene Brown. called something the wilderness, Braving the Wilderness, and she talks about having a tough back and a soft front. We don't want to have a hard front.
Yeah.
I went through this. If you've listened to every pod, then you know some of the stuff I went through this year, right? And people's opinions of it and the whole nine, right? But my takeaway was that my skin is thicker, but my heart is softer. I'm just never going to guard myself from feeling. If I get hurt, I want to feel it, right? Because that means my heart is still soft.
Yeah.
If I get disappointed, I want to feel it. I don't want to get to the point where I'm like, yeah, if they leave, that's just on them. You know what I'm saying? No, I want to lament when good people leave. I want to rejoice when bad people leave. Right? Like, oh, you leaving? Praise God. He was on my last nerve. You know, you brought so much dissension. I couldn't wait for you to go. Right. So I feel like if you can calibrate that, you'll be able to lead. It's what I call open-handed leadership.
Okay.
God can put anything in my hand with my hand open. But here's the mistake we make when God puts something in our hand. We think the way to, okay, so I'm gonna put this. I know this is not gonna be good for the cam, but I don't care. So open up your hand. I'm putting that in your hand. Now, how do most people assume you're supposed to hold that? Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. But if you hold it like that, when God gets ready to come get it, it's gonna be a tug of war.
Yeah.
So the way that you hold it is in the same way you received it, with your hand open.
Yeah.
Just remain stable, safe, caring. And then whenever the Lord's ready to come get it, he can take it easily from you. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're not going to miss it. It doesn't mean you're not going to grieve. But your hand is still open, which means he can put the next thing in your hand. Embassy City was in my hand for 7 years. And he took it out and put a podcast in there. We cried all of 2022. And Juliet don't cry. Juliet is tomboy. She got time. We good. She prayed for a man that would cry and then saw how much I cried and was like, Lord, I should have been more specific. This dude is a simp. No, I'm just playing. So we both wept a lot in 2022. But then the Lord put this in our hands and it was so awkward. It felt so like, oh, why would I want this? I don't want this. I can't see myself doing nothing else now.
Wow.
It's just such a blessing. So just keep, so however long the Lord tells you to do this, just keep an open hand.
Yeah.
And he will put people in and bring them out, bring resources in, bring it out, bring money in. He'll give you money and you'll give it away and it won't even matter.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
I probably just scared everybody though. Like all the people at SALT, they like 7 years, huh?
Nah. Hey, I was shocked I did 7. Like I never thought I would do 30, but I didn't think I would do less than 10.
Yeah.
And don't get scared, Salt. It don't mean that your pastor's gonna bounce like 7 years on the dot. And I will say, it should just give everybody. It should just calibrate everybody to understanding that seasons don't have to be as long as you thought they were gonna be. When you stay open to the Lord, he can just surprise you in ways that you never thought possible.
Yeah.
Cause I'm on assignment. I remember telling the Lord, well, I honestly, you know, my last day as lead pastor of Embassy City was December 31st of 22. And man, I think it was after like 4 months. I think it was April of this year. I was in my quiet time and I said, Lord, I will do anything you ask, I'll do. I will do anything you ask. And I hope you don't ever ask me to plant no church ever again. I hope you don't ever ask me to be no lead pastor again. as long as I live. And here's the main reason why. When I crossed over to June 1st of 2023, the grace
lifted.
And I would never want to do what I did.
Yeah. I feel like that about coaching. People ask me all the time, do you miss it? I'm like, I miss the kids. I miss the locker room. Same thing when I stopped playing. I miss the locker room and the money.
Yes.
But
that part.
But now, like, if God called me to coaching, and it's his choice.
Yeah.
But if he called me back to coaching, I wouldn't want to be a head coach. I just want to just do the work.
Yeah, for sure.
With the kids, teach them.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that part.
Yeah. Yeah, when the grace lifts off you, I always tell people, if God hasn't called you to pastor, don't volunteer.
Whew. Yeah.
Right? Because if you volunteer, you are volunteering to go square up against a demonic stronghold or a principality of a region without his grace.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. With his grace, you're going to get popped in the mouth.
Right.
Imagine getting smacked in the mouth and God didn't even tell you to go.
Right. Can't even defend yourself.
Nah, you ain't got a mouthpiece in. You about to get
out there on your own.
Them teeth about to come out. So I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't wish that on nobody. Like literally nobody. So, bro, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the gift of you. Thank you for this time. Thank you for sharing stuff you never shared before. Thank you for feeling safe enough to even give us that gift of vulnerability. Man, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, this is a blessing, brother.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative and humbled all at the same time. Thank you for you, your team, and the level of intentional excellence. I saw every detail. The communication, all of it.
Yes, sir.
The travel accommodation, all of it.
Yes,
I saw
sir.
it all.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No, man, we value you. We value you all. And you're my brother, you're my sister. Y'all need anything, just holler at us.
Man,
we'll be here. Yeah.
Appreciate you.
What's up, dwellers? This was good. If you didn't get nothing out of this one, who are you? Like, why are you down here? Take the elevator up to the lobby. Do not go to the 100th floor. I don't advise that for anybody. But if you didn't get nothing out of here, you were not listening. Oh my God. Vernon Fox III. What a blessing. I love you guys. And until next time, peace.
So press B with me and let's let whatever gon' be just be. Yeah, so press B with me and let's let whatever gon' be just be.